Hello. In this video, we're going through and talking about how to create a project, particularly a DBT project. And once again, you're on the Analytic Engineering and DBT 0 to 100 documentation, or just like onboarding tutorial. So let's go into here in the documentation and hover over create a project. Go into that and enter in the documentation on how to go about creating a project. This process is also specified in getdbt.com, but if you're looking for something a little bit more interactive or just something to see, that's where I'm at right now, to enable that. So here, for creating the project, the procedure of what we're going to go through is just creating the DBT project or folder, and then or saving the data warehouse credentials associated with your DBT project. So to create the repo, to go about that, we would, in our command line, which would be terminal or Windows prompt, we enter in, assuming we have installed DBT init, which is specified right here, and the repository name that we want. And from there, what would happen is a folder would be created with the specified subfolders in it as well. So think of it as like a cookie cutter implementation for creating a standard DBT repo or repository. And then optionally, if you have a DBT version of 0.18 or above, you can add an adapter associated with that as well. So there'll be some additional custom associated files or attributes with the specified adapter after DBT init, your folder name or your project name. More information can be found in the getDBT documentation, which can be found in this hyperlink. But why is this important? Why would we go about and specifying like an adapter midway after creating our DBT folder? Well, it's because of credentials. So the way credentials are created, particularly the configurations for your credentials, are created and specified in a different folder outside from your project folder from this command earlier on. And that can be found at and particularly for terminal, at the parent directory in folder.dbt. And there you'll find this YAML file called profiles YAML to enter into to add your configurations and to store your credentials. And when I say credentials, I mean to say data warehouse or cloud data warehouse credentials to enable you to execute these transformations in your data warehouse or your query interpreter have not be. Because without those, how can we enable ourselves to do transformations? Yeah. And DBT works as a transformation within your warehouse, more specifically, and leverages said warehouse for such transformations. So after we, just check and hit ls to see if our files in there, you'll have a profile.yaml file in there. And if not, just be sure to create one, particularly for Windows users. That can be something a little more about, so definitely check that out. And depending on your specification of how, say if you're in your .dbt folder, you can either Vim or Emac into there. That's like your preference. Go back if you will. But what I would do after is I type in Vim and then enter in the profiles.yaml file. And then in it, you'll find a default configuration if it was initially created from that project creation. That default configuration was with the Redshift example, and that can be seen in the following. It would look like this. So you'll have your particular profile configuration and the specified target, or targets, I should say. And so you have your default configuration. The name is some other name as well, but that naming is important later on. And then we have our particular targets, which are also important to mention later on. And so you do a duplication of dev and prod as targets, and enter in the credentials and duplicate them as such. The reason why targets are important is it matters in interaction with how you go about your development process. That will be mentioned later on, particularly in Jinja statements and templates section. So more to come for that, which would be like around this section. So it's good to hear. But for now, we're going to specify our target as a dev or development, wherever you specify this naming convention as. I'd specify it as such. And so target is dev for our DBT runs, and that's would be as such. The reason why this is specified, and say if in DBT we want to click like DBT run something, then implicitly what's happening is the default target is specified dev, and that's run through DBT run in command line mentioned later on. But if there is no flag, that's the default. But if there's a flag of something called a target flag, then that'd be important in the specification of prod or dev. Again, this is mentioned later on, kind of going wording it out in some abstraction, but that will definitely come to that later on. And again, recall we'll be working within Snowflake for our case, so then we enter in our Snowflake configuration as such. We'd have the particular naming for our profile, Customer Analytics DB. Our target is dev, and we would have a dev related target, a prod related target with the associated attributes or information needed to execute DBT in our Snowflake data warehouse. So we have a type, which is Snowflake, the account, name of your Snowflake instance, the username, password, and the associated role, database, warehouse, and a little more attributes to that. That information is available in the Get DBT docs as well. And this is like also hyperlinked right here as well. And so that's what we need into going through creating our project, is creating the project repository through this cookie cutter-like implementation seen above, and then adding in our credentials. And then from there, going on forward, we can start going through and starting building our data mart. So coming to be through the next steps, which should be base extraction, staging transformations, and then creating our marts as well. And a little bit more to that, so definitely stay tuned. Thank you.